welcome back to the Light Side Podcast. My name is Shola. I'm your host, and I'm excited to dive into this week's topic of productivity. It is very near and dear to my heart and has played a significant role in my career growth and success over the years. Initially, I had planned for this later down the roadmap of the season, but I decided to bump it up because September is such a tricky month. It's like the rest of the year tends to fly by. I'm already seeing Halloween decorations, and before we know it, it's Thanksgiving, and we're writing our New Year's resolutions. It's crazy how fast these 3 months go. So, even from a business perspective, so much is happening this time. It's like year end is coming up. There is business planning for 2024. There's just a lot going on no matter what field you're in. I think September just tends to kick the year into like high gear. I don't know if that's the right saying. Regardless, before we get into the tips, I want to talk about what productivity means for this conversation. From my perspective, what I'm referring to when I speak of productivity is a combination of effectiveness and efficiency with a dash of mindfulness and presence, because so much of what we do effectively depends on the amount of attention and focus we can give it through our presence. So, I understand productivity is a vast topic with so many factors and facets to consider, but there are some essential and foundational tips that can help us improve our productivity in overcoming what feels like resistance when we're trying to be productive. I consider this topic to be my bread and butter. I even coach my clients on this. It involves practices and habits that I've learned throughout my career, including trainings with big consulting firms, workshops for promotions and whatnot, but also books and personal growth content and my coaching certification, of course. But I truly believe my personal experience, above all, was the most significant in all of this. I can take myself back to moments in time when I was most productive, and the habits and the mind space I was in and the work I was doing involved a lot of focus. And I think focus comes with our ability to be present and limit distractions. Some of the common resistances that come up when we're trying to be productive is feeling overwhelmed, the feeling of having too much on our plate, exhaustion from overwork, or being pulled into so many directions, which leads to a lack of focus and procrastination a lot of times. And the thing is a lot of what we do tends to be habitual versus intentional. And our mindset about time often involves around limitations and a scarcity or lack mindset with a belief that we just don't have enough time. You hear that all the time. And that mindset alone can hold us back in a lot of ways. But thankfully, we can reprogram our mind and body. We can do that, right? It just requires our willingness and our belief that new thought patterns and habits can be formed. It takes effort, consistency, repetition, but it's doable, 1,000,000%, right? With that said, there is a lot to cover, and I aim to keep these episodes within 30 minutes. So we may have another one down the line focusing on the mindset aspect and our perception of time and how that weaves into our productivity and the output we're able to achieve. But for this episode, we're going to focus on practical steps you can take to improve your productivity. I wholly and completely stand by them. I practice them on a daily basis myself, and I have for many years. Let's get into it, guys. So, tip number one is creating awareness. This is a tool that I learned as part of my last role. It's incredibly invaluable. Start by drawing a pie chart. Start with a circle, which is going to represent 24 hours in a day. Segment in your key activities and that you have in your day. Honestly speaking, right? This is for you. So it's between you and you. Account for how many hours you sleep, how many hours you work, your commute, personal time, exercise, watching TV, anything that you put time towards, put that in this pie chart and have each, section account for the number of hours that totals 24 hours in one day. And whatever it might be, please add it in. Be very honest with yourself. Then draw another circle. And this circle is going to represent whichever area that you want to improve your productivity in. So let's say that's your work and you currently work, let's say 10 hours. Make that circle represent the 10 hours and start slicing in all of the activities that you're doing for your work and how many hours each of those activities take, and how many hours that adds up to. I'm assuming it will add up to the 10 or 11 or however many hours that you sliced out, right? But this is where the awareness comes in. You will want to add in how many hours you spend on emails even after you get home, right? Sometimes we open up our laptops or on our phones doing emails. Try to count for all of the activities, your team meetings, your one-on-ones, your project meetings, your just everything that you are doing for your work. Account for all of those activities and how many hours. It can help you create a level of awareness to discern what you want to add or remove from your schedule. I found this to be so helpful. And first and foremost, before we make any sort of changes in our life, we always need the level of awareness. So, this can help create that awareness to make a shift in your productivity. Because maybe it's not the amount of hours that is in your day. It's about the types of activities that you can do more intentionally to give you more time back. I still remember after I had done this exercise myself and realizing, exactly why I was working such long hours is because, after all the meetings and catch ups and all the various emails and etc. that I had to do, I would have to work late so I can actually do my job. And so I think it's really important to discern and see, okay, am I having those meetings that are, 30 minutes because, they've always been 30 minutes? Can they be 10 minutes? Can they be 15 minutes? We're not constricted, right? We can be more intentional with the types of activities we're taking part in and take our energy back, so to speak, so that we can focus it on the things that will actually give us value in our day. It also makes it more clear as far as, wow, if I want to do a 15-minute workout, I can really squeeze that in. You realize how much time you might be spending catching up on the phone or, doing things that aren't really giving you dividends. So I really love this exercise. If you haven't done it already, I highly suggest it as a prerequisite to becoming more productive in whatever area you're working on. And this leads me into my second tip. Define your personal OKRs, which stand for objectives and key results. This is super popular in the business world. You may have heard it already, but write down your intentions, your goals, and objectives that are personal to you and the key results you want to see. So maybe it's a new goal or maybe it's things you already have on your plate, but what do you need to see as evidence that you're making progress on your objectives and goals? Really folds into what we talked about the prior episode around celebrating the process and what we're achieving, but it also allows us to have reflection points on your calendar so that you can assess how it's going and if you want to make any modifications. So add calendar blocks for 2 weeks out, 4 weeks out, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, where you spend 10 to 15 minutes reflecting on your goals and objectives and the progress you're making. What I find to be really key in all of this with writing down your objectives and key results is that there's a lot of evidence that proves people that write down their goals are a lot more likely to achieve them. And there's a lot that comes into play because by writing down your aspirations or what you wish to do, you're making it more concrete. It turns into a plan with a sense of a commitment and accountability, right? You're writing down what you expect to see as a result. You have reflection points on your calendar that are going to hold you personally accountable to yourself. And you're also programming your mind to work towards that objective. We almost create a blueprint with writing down our objectives and key results by providing a North Star for everything else you're prioritizing in your life. Becoming more intentional about the other things you make time for in your day to day. You end up asking yourself more and more, is this going to contribute to my OKRs? Or that's what I actually suggest, is ask yourself before doing other things, like, is this going to contribute to my goals and objectives? And it will help you keep you on track. And I know I'm treating productivity like a big project plan, but it almost is. You will be able to better discern what you want to do less of because it doesn't contribute to your goals, and hence get more time back for things that will contribute to your goals. It can be really like a matter of kind of what I was mentioning earlier, like asking yourself ahead of a meeting, is this going to contribute to what we're trying to achieve? Can we reduce this touch point to 10 minutes? Can we, just not have it at all? Like, even with, like, let's say your goal is to be healthier, it's like asking yourself, is what I'm going to eat going to contribute to my health goals? It's not that I can never have it. It's just maybe not right now. And it's the same thing with other activities, right? It's like when you're getting distracted, it's like asking yourself, it's not that I can't grab my phone ever. I just can't grab it right now. And so writing things down, writing our goals down creates this level of clarity for us. It helps organize our mind. It helps organize what we care about. And it doesn't escape us as a result. Our lives are already super busy as is, and it's hard to make time for things we don't have top of mind. And most of the time, what we don't actually define and write down, we may never get to. And what we're trying to avoid is getting to that point at year end, like, dang, I really wanted to do this in 2023, and now I'm writing it as a goal for 2024. So we want to avoid that. So write it down, add reminders to your calendar, create blocks to reflect on your progress, and you can make changes to what's not working or continue what is. This will add a sense of personal accountability, or you can also get an accountability partner. You can share it with your best friend, your partner, your colleague, or, a coach. I know plenty of life coaches if you need one. I am one myself, so feel free to reach out, and I hope this helps you. All right, so the next tip that I have is 3 folds. Number 3 is 3 folds. I didn't plan that, but prep, prioritize, plan. Prep is really all about creating the path of least resistance. So maybe it's 4 P's. Okay. So if adding more productivity for you means fitting in your exercise routine in a busy schedule, prep by having your workout and your work clothes ready the night before. It means making it so that you really have no excuses in the morning. It's ready to go. Or if it's your water intake, maybe it means getting a water filter so you can hydrate more. We want to make it easy for us to be productive about the things that matter to us. This next one under prep is really big. I've noticed such a big difference for me. And I actually started doing this before my therapist and doctor suggested it when I was dealing with insomnia. But really, it was brain dumping everything I needed to do the next day so that it is off of my mind. For a lot of us, we're so busy throughout the day. The only moment of silence we have is right before we're falling asleep. So much flood into our mind when we close our eyes and we're just ready to fall asleep. And we can do ourselves a really big favor by writing down our key to-dos for the next day, and then taking that a step further and prioritizing it and organizing it in the order of priority for you. You can use whatever you prefer, but I love using the Moscow model. You can also just do 1 through 5, right? You can just like number it, but the Moscow model is really labeling your to-dos in a must, should, could, won't, and then deciding which of your must is the hardest, and doing that first thing is going to even accelerate your productivity for the day. So I want to organize your to-dos in the order of complexity, I guess, what's like the hardest or most challenging, and leaving the easiest for the end of the day. This really benefits you in a few ways, in that, for one, life happens, right? Like as the day goes on, things come up, emergencies may happen, or last minute meetings get put on the calendar. Whatever it is, the end of the day is a little bit more unpredictable than the beginning of the day. And so by doing the hardest thing first, you are not only using your optimal energy, regardless of if you are a night owl or a morning person. Your most optimal energy is typically 2 hours after you wake up. And you almost instill this feeling of productivity into your day that makes the rest of the day feel like a breeze. You fall into a momentum. You fall into this feeling of accomplishment, of being satisfied with what you were able to do. So then you end up being able to get more done as a result. You fall into like this high flying disc. And what happens is if things do come up at the end of the day, or, your energy level starts to decline naturally. If something does come up that you can't, get into your more trivial things, then it's not going to feel as much of a big deal because it was a could. And if it does move to tomorrow, then it's not going to impact your level of satisfaction with the day. You didn't just busy yourself in the morning with all these little things that were trivial, and then you have no energy left for the big thing at the end of the day. So you not only avoid feeling unsatisfied with yourself at the end of the day, but even if, let's say, nothing comes up and your energy level is lower, it still will be feasible to get those little things done because they don't require as much brain power or energy to do. Your energy level matches the complexity of that task. So if you have one takeaway from this, is to use your biggest surge of energy, regardless of being an early bird or not, and do the tough thing, get it done, and really give yourself freedom to soar through the rest of your day. It's just I love doing this. So I highly, highly recommend it. This is also where our routines become really key, and I can do another episode for routines. Let me know if there's interest. There's, I think, a lot to cover with routines, but waking up a couple hours or 1 hour at least before your day starts is a massive game changer, especially because a lot of times when you think about a morning routine and, what would be ideal for you and how you can choose to ease into your day, and you consider the things that you want to do. Maybe for you, it's like going on a quick walk in the morning, or doing a 10-minute or 20-minute yoga, or hanging out with your kids before your day starts. Maybe it's reading a chapter of a book to ground yourself. You time how long it takes to do that one thing. I definitely realized when I started doing this before is that it only took me like 10 minutes to make tea and read a chapter of my book, and it helped fuel me so much. I felt so much more grounded and happy as I went out about my day. So I really highly suggest, consider how long does it take for me to do this thing in the morning before I start my day. And that level of intentionality that you add to your morning will make all of the difference with the rest of your day. The energy you start your day with carries throughout the day. So incorporating a morning routine is just choosing to have a day of being at ease versus a day of being in a rush and needing to run to the next thing and the next thing. So I really suggest that. I know that it might sound like a paradox, but when you slow down, you get more done. So I know for some of you that might be thinking, I already don't sleep enough, I don't want to wake up earlier, then you need to wake up already. But I totally understand. I'm not asking you to give up on your sleep or reduce your sleep. Your body will naturally adjust to going to bed earlier. Your melatonin window changes as soon as you change your wake up time. And really, at the end of the day, you're tired anyways, right? So why not use prime morning energy versus energy of just being fatigued? You will get so much more energy as the result of having a routine before your day starts that you're going to want to go to bed earlier. It's the best, honestly. It's routines that help create momentum and discipline. And I think a lot of times we're hesitant to add routines to our day because we're thinking, we already have so much structure. We already have so many responsibilities. I don't want to add more. And the truth is, there is a mindset shift. It's this. What if your routines give you the freedom that you crave so much? Instead of feeling like they take your time, they give you time back. Just reflect on this saying that says, the more you do, the more you can do. And I think what routines do is they just establish a pattern of something that is important to you and is good for you. And the reward you feel just by doing that helps so much. And that's actually one of the big benefits on in writing down what you want to do the next day at night, because it gives you a motivation to get up in the morning because you know exactly what you're going to do. You don't have to decide that in the morning. And so you decide to sleep more, or like you decide to not get out of bed. So knowing what you're going to do the next day is extremely beneficial. And if you're lacking motivation even then think about how you'll feel once you've done the things that are on your list. And that becomes a source of motivation. I think our why for what we want to do is like really key as well. But truly, when we're in a routine is when we're in action. So instead of leaving it to the flow of the day to do something that is important to us, we plan for it, we make it a part of our routine. We find that we don't wait around for the right energy to kick us into gear to do what's important to us. It may actually take less time than waiting for the right time, right? Because a lot of times we find things fill up our time when we decide to just go with the flow, like things that are typically on the less productive side. I reflect back on I used to like to do my exercise at the end of the day if I had time after work. Whereas when I started fitting it into my schedule in the morning, it made such a massive difference, not only for my health, but just my overall happiness levels, because a lot of times I didn't get to it after work. I either worked late, I had stuff going on, or I was just like plain and simple, just extremely exhausted. And so doing the hardest thing first, which for me was like fitting in my workout and realizing how little time it can actually take, like a big game changer. And planning really allows us to establish the consistency that we need. And I know what we've just discussed so far with prep and planning really were hand in hand. What I want to cover with for planning is plan focus time and breaks. So when we have focus time scheduled on our calendar, this is where we eliminate distractions and only focus on one task at a time. We're not multitasking or context switching. We're only doing one thing. And by doing that one thing, we can do it more effectively and more efficiently with better quality, right? Give yourself these blocks of maybe 60 minutes, 90 minutes, or 2 hours if your focus can be really sharp, but we want to keep it within a reasonable time frame so that you take a break after the focus time. Taking a productive 5-10 minute break of going on a short walk, maybe you walk around the floor if you're in an office, or you walk to the water station, you hydrate, you get up and stretch, you do breath work. You can do, what I love about breath work is it's always with us. There's so much energy we gain through just closing our eyes and taking a couple deep breaths. This is especially useful if you can't leave your desk, but there's a bigger question to be asked. If you can't leave your desk, please consider, is this okay for my well-being? Typically isn't. And so be honest with yourself. Sorry to sound harsh, but absolutely nothing is as important that you are healthy. And a lot of times we don't take breaks because we want to get more done and we think that we're going to lose productivity, but not taking breaks is costing us a lot more productivity. It derails our progress, it sacrifices quality, it creates a lot of room for distraction that is endless. We get into these patterns of escaping what we're doing because we're not giving ourselves the break. And that this is the one thing that is really crucial that I wanted to add. With focus time is so crucial that you maintain your boundaries and stay true to yourself, because it's not that you can't go on for more than 90 minutes or, however long you set up. You can come back to it, but definitely get up, pens down, computer down, stop doing what you're doing and take a break so that you build self-trust. You're training your mind to psychologically not associate focus time with getting into a hole, and it stops you from avoiding more focus time in the future. By having boundaries, you will stop, even if it means coming back to it. You'll take a break to reward yourself, and also so that you avoid your mind getting distracted more and more. A lot of times when we don't take breaks, we create a lot more room for getting into a rabbit hole of distractions, because we're human. We get tired, right? And train yourself to stretch, go on a walk, get water, get hydrated, Go outside, breathe fresh air if you can, or, whatever you do, make it productive for energizing you. You want it to be fueling you. And, sometimes I get that we're like on a Zoom marathon or like we can't, get up. But if you can't, then at least look away from your screen every 20 minutes or so into the distance. My ophthalmologist suggested this exercise. And after I was having some major eye issues, what you can do is move your pupils around from one corner of your eye to the other. So you just like move your gaze to different corners of your eyes. And it's a really nice stretch. It's a nice exercise. So do an eye exercise if you can't move, but give yourself energy fueling breaks. And, whatever we can do to move our body, it's the best thing for us. It's the best thing for moving energy. We want to make our breaks about feeling ourselves. And scrolling social media, unfortunately, is not a feeling activity unless you have really honed your algorithm to be full of positivity and funny, uplifting stuff. But even then, it can be a major distractor because it's so easy to get into the scrolling spirals. We can be deliberate, have time designated for going on our favorite apps so that when our attention is and focus is needed, it's not easily distracted and it doesn't hinder our productivity. When your attention is elsewhere and you've trained yourself to take breaks on your apps, it really hinders your productivity. When it becomes habitual and your go-to, that is like a dangerous distraction because apps are always with us on our phone. That really tugs away from our presence and our ability to just be. I get that we want to strive for everything in moderation. Something that really helped me at one point was downloading the apps on my tablet so that it wasn't on my phone. And I felt so much more energized without always directing my attention to something at all times. It's necessary for our mind to get a break, right? There is a lot of context switching and attention fatigue and there's notifications left and right. I actually don't get any notifications. I love the focus feature on the iPhone. If you haven't used that already, I highly suggest. You can set up days and times where it comes on and it limits your app usage, the notifications you receive, and it's automated. So you don't even have to think about it. And then there are apps that can hard block you from from really accessing the apps at all. So whatever you do, get in a habit that works for you to have more phone-free time in your day, whether it's your first hour when you wake up or at night before you go to bed. Train yourself to not need to be tied to your phone. So to quickly recap, the tips that I'm suggesting to improve our productivity is to create awareness with yourself on how you're using your time so that you can eliminate or add what's going to improve your productivity and that sense of having more time. Write down your objectives and key results. Even if it may not be new, you want to know what you want to see in order to feel that you are making progress and having what you want to do as a plan as opposed to just an aspiration or a wish, and having regular checkpoints, seeing how you're doing, being personally accountable to what you want to do. And number 3 is the 3 P's: prep, prioritize, plan, creating a path of least resistance for yourself and really giving yourself the opportunity to be intentional with what's most important to you and getting that done first thing in the day, because really as we get to the end of the day, we have our energy levels decline and other things may come up. And so we want to ensure what's most important to us is done first thing. And life happens, right? We want to avoid falling into a trap of feeling disappointed in ourselves or unhappy with our progress, even though we're doing a lot of work. Do your most important thing first. And the last thing is like having boundaries. Take breaks, have focused time, but take breaks. Be very deliberate about what you're going to get distracted with and when you want to get distracted, right? So having app limits and having phone-free time and using your breaks in a way in which is going to fuel you, productive breaks, can really maintain your energy throughout the day. And, you want to give yourself the luxury of not having your mind scattered and like going into so many different directions. And, scheduling time to fuel you instead of draining you is going to boost your productivity so much, because so much of our productivity comes down to our level of mindfulness. I think that is so underemphasized. So these are my tips for improving productivity. Please let me know if you found this helpful. The biggest compliment, if you enjoyed this episode, is if you can share it with your friends, family, colleagues on your social media and tag me. As always, feel free to message or email me. I love hearing from you. Until next time, I send you tons of love.